Hello, friends. Welcome back to Bookmint. Imagine a city of gold. A city where the hanging gardens touch the sky, where merchants trade rare spices and silks, and where immense wealth flows through the streets like the water of the river Euphrates. This is Babylon, the most glorious city of the ancient world. But ask yourself this. Within this city of abundance, why were some men bathing in riches while others starved, working tirelessly just to buy a loaf of bread? Does this sound familiar? Does it sound like the world we live in today? We work hard, we pay our bills, and at the end of the month, our pockets are empty. We wonder, is there a secret? Is there a hidden map to wealth that we are missing? The answer is yes. And that map was drawn thousands of years ago in the clay tablets of Babylon. Today on Bookmint, we are diving deep into one of the most influential financial books ever written, The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. This isn't just a book. It is a collection of parables, stories, and ancient wisdom that has created millionaires for nearly a century. This is the original 1926 classic. We have divided this massive journey into 3 parts. This is part 1. Today, we will walk the dusty streets of Babylon, meet the characters who struggled just like us, and uncover the first absolute laws of money. But before we open the gates to the city, if you want to transform your financial life and learn from the world's greatest books, make sure to subscribe to Bookmint. Hit that like button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a chapter of wisdom. Now, let us travel back in time. Our story begins not with the rich, but with the frustrated. We meet a man named Bansir. Bansir was a chariot builder. He was skilled, he was strong, and he was hard-working. But on this particular day, Bansir sat on the low wall surrounding his property, gazing sadly at his unfinished work. His wife looked at him frequently, reminding him silently that the food bag was almost empty. But Bansir couldn't move. His mind was heavy. Soon, his friend Kobe, a musician, walked by. Kobe was a cheerful man, but today he came with a request. He saw Bansir sitting idly and assumed Bansir must have finished a big job and had coins jingling in his purse. Kobe asked to borrow 2 shekels, a small amount of money. Bansir looked at his friend and laughed, a bitter, hollow laugh. He said, "If I had 2 shekels, I would not lend them to anyone. They would be my entire fortune." Kobe was shocked. "You have no money, yet you sit on the wall like a statue? Why do you not finish the chariot? How will you eat?" This moment is crucial. This is where most of us find ourselves. Bansir explained his pain. He told Kobe that he had a dream the night before. In the dream, he was a man of means. He had coins to toss to beggars, gold to buy finery for his wife, and silver to secure his future. He felt confident and powerful. But when he woke up, the reality crushed him. His purse was empty. They began to talk. They discussed their lives. They had worked for years. They were the finest craftsmen in Babylon. They didn't gamble excessively, they worked long hours, yet they had nothing to show for it. Bansir asked the question that changes everything. Why? Why can we not acquire gold? Kobe whispered, "I do not know, but look at our old friend Arkad." Now everyone in Babylon knew Arkad. He was known far and wide as the richest man in Babylon. The king himself sought his advice. He was so wealthy that his charity was immense. His family wore the finest clothes, yet his gold multiplied faster than he could spend it. But here is the catch. Arkad grew up with Bansir and Kobe. He studied with them, he played with them in the clay pits. He was no smarter than them, and he worked no harder than them. Why then, Bansir asked, did fate choose him to enjoy all the good things of life and ignore us who are equally deserving? They decided right then and there to stop guessing. They gathered a group of old friends who were also struggling, and they went to the palace of Arkad to ask him the secret.
Urgent, grave, and immediately capturing attention. This is the first lesson of the book. If you want to be rich, you must ask those who are already rich. You must seek counsel from the competent. When they arrived at Arkad's hall, they were welcomed. Arkad was not arrogant. When Bansir asked him, "Arkad, we have worked as hard as you, yet we are poor. Why?" Arkad didn't speak of luck. He didn't speak of magic. He smiled and said, "If you have not acquired more than a bare existence in the years since we were youths, it is because you either have failed to learn the laws that govern the building of wealth, or else you do not observe them." Arkad began to tell his own story. He wasn't born rich. As a young man, he was a scribe in the Hall of Records. He carved clay tablets for hours every day. The work was hard, and the pay was low. One day, a moneylender named Algamish came to the hall. He needed a copy of the 9th law, carved quickly. He was a rich, fearful man with a loud voice. He told Arkad, "If you finish this task by tomorrow morning, I will give you 2 coppers extra." Arkad worked hard, but the law was long. When Algamish returned, the work was unfinished. Algamish was furious. But Arkad, young and bold, made a proposition. He said, "Algamish, you are a very rich man. Tell me how I may also become rich, and I will carve upon this clay all night, and when the sun rises, it shall be completed." Algamish laughed, but he agreed. Arkad worked through the night. His back ached, the smell of the wick lamp choked him, and his eyes blurred. But by dawn, the tablets were finished. Algamish looked at the work and smiled. "You have fulfilled your part of the bargain, my son," he said. "Now I am ready to fulfill mine." Listen closely, because what Algamish told Arkad is the foundation of all financial success. It is the golden thread that runs through this entire book. Algamish looked at the young scribe and said, "I found the road to wealth when I decided that a part of all I earned was mine to keep, and so will you." Arkad was confused. He asked, "But all that I earn is mine to keep, is it not?" "Far from it," Algamish replied. "Do you not pay the garment maker? Do you not pay the sandal maker? Do you not pay for the things you eat? Can you live in Babylon without spending? You pay everyone but yourself. You labor for others. You are like a slave working for his master." He continued, "If you keep for yourself 1/10 of all you earn, how much would you have in 10 years? Arkad did the math. "As much as I earn in 1 year." "You speak but half the truth," Algamish corrected him. "Every gold piece you save is a slave to work for you. Every copper it earns is its child that also can earn for you. If you would become wealthy, then what you save must earn, and its children must earn, that all may help to give you the abundance you crave." This brings us to the most famous quote of the book. "A part of all you earn is yours to keep. It should be not less than 1/10, no matter how little you earn." Arkad took this advice. He started saving. It was hard. He wanted to buy nice clothes. He wanted to eat better food. But he disciplined himself. He hid 1 copper out of every 10 under his mattress. A year later, Algamish returned. He asked Arkad, "Have you kept to our bargain?" Arkad proudly said yes. "And what have you done with it?" Algamish asked. Arkad replied, I gave it to Asmer the brickmaker, who told me he was traveling over the far seas, and in Tyre he would buy for me the rare jewels of the Phoenicians. When he returns, we shall sell these at high prices and divide the earnings." Algamish growled in frustration. "Every fool must learn," he shouted. "Why trust the knowledge of a brickmaker about jewels? Would you go to the baker to inquire about the stars? No, you would go to the astronomer. You have lost your savings, my youth. You have jerked your wealth tree up by the roots." And it was true. Asmer the brickmaker returned, but the Phoenicians had cheated him. They sold him bits of colored glass that looked like gems, but were worthless. Arcad's savings were gone. This brings us to the second major lesson. Advice is one thing that is freely given away, but watch that you take only what is worth having. Trust only the experts in their field. Arcad was devastated, but he didn't give up. He started again. He saved his 10th. This time, when he had enough, he gave it to Agar, the shield maker, to buy bronze, and Agar paid him interest. Arcad learned. He learned to live on less than he earned. He learned to seek advice from those competent to give it. And he learned to make his gold work for him. Years passed. Algamish returned one final time. He saw that Arcad was now a man of substance. He saw that Arcad understood the laws of money. Algamish, having no sons to inherit his vast business, made Arcad his partner and heir. That is how Arcad became the richest man in Babylon, not by luck, but by learning, failing, and persisting. The friends of Arcad listened to this story in silence. Some nudged each other, thinking it was just a nice story. But others saw the light. They realized that Arcad had mastered a system.
Now we move to the next phase of the book, which is perhaps the most practical part for you, the listener. The king of Babylon, Sargon, returned from war to find the city in trouble. The chancellor told him that while the city was rich, the gold was concentrated in the hands of a few men, like Arcad. The common people had nothing. The king summoned Arcad. He asked him, "Arcad, is it possible to teach the people of Babylon how to acquire wealth? Can this knowledge be taught?" Arcad replied, "That which one man knows can be taught to others." The king ordered a great hall to be prepared. He wanted Arcad to teach a class of 100 chosen men. These men would then go out and teach others, spreading the knowledge until all of Babylon was prosperous. In this great hall, Arcad presented what he called the 7 cures for a lean purse. A lean purse is an empty wallet. It is a sickness, and these are the cures. Today, in Part 1, we will cover the first 3 cures. The first cure, start thy purse to fattening. Arcad stood before the men. He asked them what they did for a living. One was a scribe, one a butcher, one a shopkeeper. He told them, "If you put 10 eggs into a basket every morning and take out only 9 every evening, what will happen eventually?" The men laughed. "The basket will overflow." "So it is with your purse," Arcad said. "For every 10 coins you place within your purse, take out for use but 9. Your purse will start to fatten at once, and its increasing weight will feel good in your hand and bring satisfaction to your soul." It sounds too simple, doesn't it? But Arcad insisted. This is the foundation. You cannot build a castle on a swamp. You cannot build wealth without capital. The 10% savings rule is non-negotiable. It doesn't matter if you are in debt. It doesn't matter if your income is low.
You must pay yourself first. The second cure: control thy expenditures. One of the students raised a hand. But Arcad, how can a man keep 1/10 of all he earns when all the coins he earns are not enough for his necessary expenses? Arcad smiled. Yesterday, how many of you carried lean purses? All of them raised their hands. Yet you do not all earn the same, Arcad noted. Some earn much more than others. Some have large families to support. Yet all purses are equally lean. Why? He explained a harsh truth. That which each of us calls our necessary expenses will always grow to equal our incomes unless we protest to the contrary. Do not confuse your necessary expenses with your desires. We all have desires that our incomes cannot gratify. We think we need the new phone, the better car, the fashionable clothes. Arcad teaches us to study our habits. You will find that there are certain expenses that can be reduced or eliminated without affecting the quality of your life. The motto for the second cure is, "Budget thy expenses, that thou mayest have coins to pay for thy necessities, to pay for thy enjoyments, and to gratify thy worthwhile desires without spending more than 9/10 of thy earnings." Basically, live on 90% of your income. Adjust your lifestyle to fit the 90%, not the 100%. The third cure: make thy gold multiply. Once you have started saving, the first cure, and you have controlled your spending, the second cure, you will have a surplus. Your purse is growing, but keeping money in a bag makes it lazy. Arcad said, "Gold in a purse is gratifying to own and satisfieth a miserly soul, but earns nothing. The gold we may retain from our earnings is but the start. The earnings it will make shall build our fortunes." He told the story of his first successful investment, lending money to the shield maker. The principle here is clear. Put each coin to laboring, that it may reproduce its kind as even the flocks of the field, and help bring to thee income, a stream of wealth that shall flow constantly into thy purse. In modern terms, this means investment. It means compound interest. It means passive income. Your money should be working 24 hours a day, even while you sleep. If your money is just sitting in a checking account, losing value to inflation, you are not following the third cure. These first 3 cures are the defense. They protect you from poverty. But to become truly wealthy, you need to go on the offense. You need to secure your future and protect your assets from loss. We still have 4 more cures to discuss. We need to talk about protecting your treasure from loss, making your dwelling a profitable investment, ensuring a future income, and increasing your ability to earn. And after the cures, we must meet the goddess of good luck. Does luck exist? Can you attract it? Arcad says yes, but not in the gambling halls. We will uncover all of these secrets in part 2 of our deep dive into the richest man in Babylon. You have learned today that you must pay yourself first. You must live below your means, and you must make your money work for you. These are ancient laws, as true today as they were in 1926, and as true as they were 5,000 years ago in Babylon. Thank you for listening to Part 1 on Bookmint. If you found value in this script, please hit the like button. It helps the algorithm share this wisdom with others who need it. We are just getting started. The path to the Golden City continues in the next episode. Stay tuned, stay curious, and start fattening that purse today.
Part 2. Welcome back to Bookmint. I am your host, and today we continue our journey through the golden streets of the ancient world. We are exploring the timeless classic, The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. If you are joining us now, please go back and listen to Part 1. In the first episode, we met Arcad, the richest man in Babylon. We learned that wealth is not a matter of fate, but a result of following specific laws. We learned the first 3 cures for a lean purse. Pay yourself first, save 10%. Control your expenses, and make your gold multiply through wise investments. But Arcad's lesson in the Temple of Learning was not finished. The king had asked him to teach the chosen men of Babylon how to be wealthy, and Arcad had 4 more cures to reveal. Today, in Part 2, we will uncover these remaining cures. We will also ask a controversial question. And finally, we will hear the dramatic story of Arcad's son, Nomasir, who had to choose between a bag of gold and a clay tablet of wisdom. Which would you choose? If you are ready to unlock the secrets of the ancients, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Bookmint. Let's dive back into the Hall of Learning. The 4th cure. Guard thy treasures from loss. Arcad looked at his students with a serious expression. He knew that once a man starts to accumulate money, he becomes a target. Not just for thieves, but for bad opportunities. He said, "Misfortune loves a shining mark. Gold in a man's purse must be guarded with firmness, else it be lost." We already heard the story in Part 1 about how Arcad lost his first savings by trusting a brickmaker to buy jewels. That was a violation of the 4th cure. The principle here is the safety of the principle. Many of us get excited about get-rich-quick schemes. We hear about a new cryptocurrency, a new business venture that promises 50% returns in a month. Arcad warns us, stop. Is it wise to be intrigued by larger earnings when thy principal may be lost? Arcad asked. I say not. The penalty of risk is probable loss. Study carefully before parting with thy treasure each assurance that it may be safely reclaimed. Be not misled by thine own romantic desires to make wealth rapidly. In modern terms, this means due diligence. Before you invest, consult with those who have wisdom in handling money. Don't trust your cousin who has never run a business. Trust the experts. As Arcad said, better a little caution than a great regret. The 5th cure. Make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. This cure often sparks debate in modern finance, but let's look at the context of Babylon. Arcad observed that many families lived in crowded, rented quarters. They paid high prices to landlords for rooms with no gardens, where their children couldn't play and their wives couldn't grow herbs. Arcad advised, own thy own home. He believed that every man should own the roof that shelters him. When you own your home, you are not paying the landlord, you are paying yourself. Eventually, the house is paid off and your cost of living drastically. This frees up more of your earnings for pleasure and for other investments. Thus come many blessings to the man who owneth his own house, Arcad said. And greatly will it reduce his cost of living, making available more of his earnings for pleasures and the gratification of his desires. Whether you buy a house to live in or invest in real estate to rent out, the lesson is about securing an asset that provides stability and reduces long-term expenses. The 6th cure. Ensure a future income. Arcad was a realist. He knew that no man stays young forever.
"The life of every man proceedeth from his childhood to his old age," he told the class. "Therefore do I say that it behooves a man to make preparation for a suitable income in the days to come, when he is no longer young, and to make preparations for his family, should he be no longer with them to comfort and support them." In 1926, when this book was written, and certainly in ancient Babylon, there was no Social Security. There were no 401k plans. Arcad was describing the concept of retirement planning and life insurance. He suggested buying houses or lands that would increase in value and could be sold later. He also spoke of lending money to bankers who would pay it back with interest over many years. The message is clear. Do not live only for today. You must project your mind 20, 30, 40 years into the future. Will you be a burden to your children, or will you be a source of wealth? The sixth cure demands that we build a fortress of wealth that protects us when our muscles are too tired to work. The seventh cure: increase thy ability to earn. This is perhaps the most powerful cure of all. One of the students asked Arcad how to get more money immediately. Arcad told him a story about a man who asked for a raise but didn't know how to do his job any better than the day before. Arcad said, "The more of wisdom we know, the more we may earn. That man who seeks to learn more of his craft shall be richly rewarded. If you are an artisan, learn to use better tools. If you are a lawyer, read more cases. If you are a marketer, learn the latest algorithms. Preceding accomplishment must be desire," Arcad taught. "Thy desires must be strong and definite. Do not just wish to be rich. That is a weak desire. Wish to earn 5 coins instead of 3. Then, when you learn how to earn 5, you can learn to earn 10. The seventh cure is about investing in yourself. It is about human capital. You are your greatest asset. If you improve your skills, your earning potential becomes limitless." With the 7 cures delivered, Arcad's class was dismissed. But the book takes us deeper. We leave the classroom and walk into the bustling marketplaces of Babylon to answer a question that haunts every gambler and every dreamer. Meet the goddess of good luck. Is luck real? Why do some men find gold while others lose it? In the book, a group of men gather to discuss this. They talk about winning at the gaming tables. But Arcad, or the wise men in the story, dismisses gambling. In the gambling hall, the odds are always with the keeper of the game. That is not luck. That is math. Instead, they discuss unearned gain. An old merchant tells a story. When he was a young man, he found a piece of land that was perfect for raising sheep. The sellers were desperate because the city gates were about to close and they couldn't bring their flocks in. They offered the land at a remarkably low price. The young man had the money. He knew it was a good deal, but he hesitated. He said, "I will buy it tomorrow." The next morning, the gates opened, buyers from the city rushed out, and the land was sold for 3 times the price. The young man missed out on a fortune. Was it bad luck? No, it was procrastination. Another story is told of a man who was offered a partnership in a great trading caravan. He hesitated because he didn't want to part with his gold, even though he knew the trader was honest and skilled. He missed the opportunity. The lesson from this chapter is profound. Good luck waits to come to that man who accepts opportunity. We often blame bad luck for our failures, but in reality, it is usually our inability to make a decision. When opportunity knocks, the protectionist inside us whispers, "Wait, be careful, do it later." But opportunity is a haughty goddess who wastes no time with those who are unprepared. The summary of this section is, men of action are favored by the goddess of good luck. If you want to be lucky, be prepared, and when the moment comes, strike. Now we move to what is arguably the most narrative and exciting part of the book, the 5 laws of gold. We shift our setting. We are no longer with Arcad in the classroom. We are in a caravan traveling across the desert. An old wealthy man named Kalabab is speaking to 27 men.
Kalabab asks them, "If you had a choice between a bag of gold and a clay tablet inscribed with words of wisdom, which would you choose?" Most of the men, like most of us today, shouted, "The gold! Give me the gold!" Kalabab laughed. "You are like the wild dogs of the desert who would swallow a bone only to choke on it. What good is gold if you do not have the wisdom to keep it?" To prove his point, he told the story of Nomasir, the son of Arcad. When Nomasir came of age, he expected to inherit his father's vast fortune. But Arcad was wise. He knew that unearned wealth ruins a man. So Arcad called Nomasir and said, "My son, I desire that you succeed to my estate, but you must first prove that you can handle wealth. Therefore, go out into the world for 10 years. To start you, I give you 2 things, a bag of gold and a clay tablet on which are written the 5 laws of gold. If after 10 years you return with the gold multiplied, all I have is yours. If you return empty-handed, you shall work as a servant." Nomasir took the bag of gold and the tablet. He didn't bother to read the tablet. He thought, "I have gold. I am rich." He traveled to Nineveh. There he met 2 friendly men who told him about a magnificent racehorse that was sure to win. They convinced Nomasir to bet his gold on this horse. It was a sure thing. Of course, the horse lost. The friendly men were swindlers. Nomasir lost a large portion of his capital. Desperate to make it back, he met another man who said he knew a merchant who died, leaving his shop full of rare cloth for a cheap price. Nomasir bought the business, thinking he would sell the cloth for a profit. But the cloth was rotten and worthless. He had bought a failing business because he knew nothing about cloth. His gold was gone. He was destitute. For years, the son of the richest man in Babylon wandered the streets, hungry, selling his clothes for food, working as a slave in the fields. He was ashamed. He was a failure. One night, shivering in the cold, he remembered the clay tablet, the one thing he hadn't sold because it had no value to the pawnbrokers. He finally read it. On it were written the 5 laws of gold. The first law: gold cometh gladly and in increasing quantity to any man who will put by not less than 1/10 of his earnings to create an estate for his future and that of his family. The second law: gold laboreth diligently and contentedly for the wise owner who finds for it profitable employment, multiplying even as the flocks of the field. The third law: gold clingeth to the protection of the cautious owner who invests it under the advice of men wise in its handling. The fourth law: gold slippeth away from the man who invests it in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar or which are not approved by those skilled in its keep. The fifth law: gold fleeth the man who would force it to impossible earnings, or who followeth the alluring advice of tricksters and schemers, or who trusts it to his own inexperience and romantic desires in investment. Nomasir wept. He realized he had violated every single law. He hadn't saved, he had spent. He hadn't found profitable employment for his money. He hadn't sought wise advice, he trusted swindlers. He invested in businesses, cloth, and horses he was not familiar with. He tried to force impossible earnings, gambling. But Nomasir was Arcad's son. He had grit. He decided to follow the laws, starting from zero.
He got a job as a manager of a crew of slaves. He saved 1/10 of his copper earnings, the first law. It was slow, but he did it. When he had a small amount saved, he didn't gamble it. He found a man named Clason, who was a slave master, but wise. Nomasir invested his savings in buying bronze for the city gates, the third law and the second law. Slowly, carefully, strictly following the 5 laws, his wealth began to grow. He didn't look for quick riches, he looked for safety and steady growth. 10 years passed. Nomasir returned to Babylon. His father, Arkad, held a great feast. Nomasir stood before his father. He placed a heavy bag of gold on the table. "Father," he said, "you gave me a bag of gold, which I lost. But you also gave me a clay tablet, which I ignored. But eventually I learned. Here is your bag of gold back." Then he signaled his servants. They brought in 3 more heavy bags of gold. "And here," Nomasir said, "are 3 bags of gold to pay for the wisdom of the clay tablet. For without the wisdom, the gold is quickly lost. But with wisdom, gold can be secured by those who have it not."
This story is the heart of the book. It proves that principles are more valuable than capital. If you give a fool $1 million, he will be broke in a year. If you take all the money away from a wise man, he will be a millionaire again in a few years. So, let's recap the 5 laws of gold quickly for your own life. Save 10%. Invest that savings so it multiplies. Protect your capital by listening to experts. Don't invest in things you don't understand. Don't chase unrealistic returns or get scammed. If you follow these, you are building a wall of security around your life. But speaking of walls, Babylon was famous for its walls. But what happens when you are already in trouble? What happens when you are drowning in debt and the walls are closing in? There is a section of this book that was actually discovered much later by archaeologists. Clay tablets that told the story of a camel trader named Babylonian, a man who was a slave, buried in debt, who used a specific formula to buy back his freedom and become a wealthy citizen. This formula is the specific debt snowball method that gurus like Dave Ramsey teach today. It was written thousands of years ago in Babylon. How did he do it? How can you get out of debt while still saving for wealth? We will cover the story of the camel trader, the gold lender of Babylon, and the final secrets of the tablets in part 3 of our series. You do not want to miss the conclusion. It contains the practical blueprint for anyone who owes money and feels hopeless. Thank you for listening to part 2 on Bookmint. If these ancient laws are resonating with you, please destroy that like button and share this with a friend who needs to hear it. I will see you in part 3, where we break the chains of debt and walk through the walls of Babylon. The finale. Welcome back to the final episode of our deep dive into the richest man in Babylon here on Bookmint. We have traveled a long road together. In part 1, we learned how to fatten our purses by paying ourselves first. In part 2, we met the goddess of good luck and learned the 5 laws of gold through the trials of Arkad's son. But today we face the dragon that breathes fire down the necks of millions of people around the world. That dragon is debt. If you are listening to this and you feel the heavy chains of debt dragging you down, if you feel like you are working just to pay for yesterday's mistakes, then this episode is for you. Today, we are going to uncover the story of Babylonian, the camel trader. We will read the ancient clay tablets that baffled archaeologists, tablets that contain a specific mathematical formula to get out of debt while getting rich. And finally, we will learn why work was considered the best friend a man could ever have. This is the conclusion to the journey. If you haven't subscribed to Bookmint yet, do it now. You don't want to miss the wisdom that can change your life. Like the video, share it with a friend who is struggling, and let's open the gates of Babylon one last time. The gold lender of Babylon. Before we get to the debt strategy, we must visit the gold lender. His name was Matan. In the book, a spearmaker named Rodan wins a gift from the king, 50 pieces of gold. Rodan is overwhelmed. He's never had this much money. Everyone wants a piece of it. His sister wants him to lend it to her husband for a risky business venture. Friends are asking for loans. Confused, Rodan goes to Matan, the gold lender, for advice. He asks, "Should I lend this money?" Matan tells him a fable that is crucial for anyone who has friends asking for money. It is the story of the ox and the ass. The ox was strong and worked hard all day in the fields. The ass carried light loads and rested. One day, the ox complained to the ass about how hard his work was. The ass, wanting to be a good friend, said, "Tomorrow, when the master comes, pretend to be sick, fall down and groan. He will let you rest." The ox did this. The master saw the ox was sick and said, "Hitch the ass to the plow instead." So the ass had to do all the ox's work. His back ached, his hooves were sore. That night, the ox thanked him. But the ass was angry. He said, "I was trying to help you, and now I bear your burden. From now on, you pull your own plow, or the master will send you to the butcher." And their friendship ended.
Matan looked at Rodan and said, "If you desire to help thy friend, do so in a way that will not bring thy friend's burdens upon thyself." This is a profound lesson in finance and relationships. Often, we try to bail people out of their financial messes only to find ourselves dragging their plow. Matan teaches us that true help isn't just giving money, it's ensuring the money is safe and that the borrower has a plan. Mathan's motto was, "Better a little caution than a great regret." The Walls of Babylon. The book then shifts to a tense moment in history, the Walls of Babylon. Old Banzar was a warrior who stood guard on the walls. The city was under siege. The king was away with the main army. Barbarian armies surrounded the city, trying to break in. Inside, the people were terrified. A merchant came to Banzar, trembling. "Will the walls hold? I have all my wealth in this city." A woman came, holding her baby. "Will the walls hold? I fear for my child." Banzar stood firm. "The walls of Babylon are strong," he told them. "Go back to your homes. You are safe." For 3 weeks the battle raged, but the walls held. This chapter isn't just a war story. It is a metaphor for insurance and protection. We cannot afford to be without adequate protection. In the modern world, our walls are our emergency funds, our health insurance, our life insurance. Tragedy can strike at any moment. A siege on your health, a siege on your job. As the book says, we cannot afford to be without adequate protection. You must build your walls before the enemy attacks. The Camel Trader of Babylon. Now we arrive at the most emotional story of the entire book, the story of Dabasir. In the story, a hungry, desperate man named Tarkad is trying to borrow money for food. He runs into Dabasir, a wealthy camel trader. Dabasir doesn't give him money. Instead, he invites him to eat and tells him his own story. Dabasir was not always rich. Years ago, he was a young man who made mistakes. He bought things he couldn't afford to impress his wife. He fell into debt.
Instead of facing his creditors, he ran away. He left Babylon. But life outside was harsh. He fell in with a group of robbers. They were caught by royal guards. Dabasir was stripped of his clothes, sold into slavery, and taken to Syria. He became a camel slave. His master was a harsh man, but the master's wife saw something in Dabasir. She saw he was educated. One day, while Dabasir was grooming the camels, the master's wife asked him, "Are you a free man or a slave?" Dabasir replied proudly, "I am a free man." She laughed. "You are a slave. Your master owns you." "But I was born free," he argued. She looked at him and said the words that would change his life. "If a man has within him the soul of a free man, will he not become respected and honored in his own city in spite of his misfortune? If a man has the soul of a slave, will he not eventually become one, even if born to a throne?" She challenged him. She told him that by running away from his debts, he showed the soul of a slave. A free man faces his problems. A free man pays what he owes. That night, Dabasir made a decision. He would escape. He would go back to Babylon. He would face his angry creditors. He would work until every copper was repaid. He escaped into the desert. The journey was brutal. He had no water. The sun beat down on him. He collapsed in the sand, ready to die. But in that moment of near death, a strange clarity came to him. He realized he had to go back. He had to pay his debts. He stood up. He forced his legs to move. He crossed the desert not with water, but with willpower. He arrived in Babylon. He went to his creditors. They were angry, but when they saw him, ragged, dirty, but determined, they listened. He told them, "I have returned. I will pay you. I do not have the money now, but I have the ability to earn. Give me time, and I will pay every coin." And he did. But how? The clay tablets of Babylon. This brings us to the most practical part of the book. In the 1930s, an archaeology professor in England received 5 clay tablets from an excavation in Babylon. He translated them and was shocked. These tablets were written by Dabasir. They detailed exactly how he paid off his debts while becoming rich. The professor tried the method himself to pay off his own debts in England, and it worked perfectly. So, what is the method? It is the 70-10-20 rule. Most people, when they are in debt, try to use all their money to pay the debt, leaving nothing for themselves. Then they run out of cash and borrow again. It's a vicious cycle. Dabasir's plan broke the cycle. Here is the formula he carved into the clay. 1. The first 10%. Pay yourself.
1/10 of all I earn shall be set aside as my own to keep. For surely a man who pays not himself is a slave to others. Even if you are in debt, you must save 10%. Why? Because you need to build confidence. You need to see your wealth growing. It gives you the psychological strength to keep going. The next 70%. Live on less. 7/10 of all I earn shall be used to provide a home, clothes, and food for me and my wife. You must learn to live on 70% of your income. This requires sacrifice. It means cutting out luxury. It means budgeting. But it allows you to live with dignity without borrowing more. The final 20%.
pay your creditors. 2/10 of all I earn shall be divided honorably among those who have trusted me. This is the magic number. You take 20% of your income and distribute it pro rata to the people you owe. Dabasir went to his creditors and said, I cannot pay you all at once, but I will give you 20% of everything I earn every single month. If you wait, you will be paid in full. If you throw me in jail, you get nothing. They agreed. And it worked. Slowly, the debts went down. Slowly, his savings, the 10%, went up. After a few years, a miracle happened. His debts were gone. He was a free man, and he had a significant amount of gold saved up because he had been paying himself first the whole time. The professor in England wrote back to the archaeologists. These old tablets have haunted me. We followed the plan. It worked. And now we are free from debt and have savings. The wisdom of Babylon is alive. This is the blueprint, friends. If you are struggling, don't hide. Don't run like a slave. Stand like a free man. Talk to your creditors. Start the 70-10-20 plan. The Luckiest Man in Babylon. The book concludes with the story of Shadunada, a wealthy merchant prince. He is traveling with a young man, the grandson of his old partner. The young man is complaining. He thinks work is for slaves. He thinks rich people should just enjoy leisure. Shadunada tells him the truth. He reveals that he, Shadunada, was once a slave. He was sold into slavery alongside a man named Pirate. Pirate argued that he shouldn't have to work. Pirate did the bare minimum. Shadunada, however, decided that if he was forced to be a slave, he would be the best slave possible. He worked hard. He learned how to bake. He learned how to trade. Because of his hard work, his master trusted him. Because of his hard work, he met Arkad and Dabasir. Because of his hard work, he eventually bought his freedom. Pirate, on the other hand, who refused to work, was sold to a harsh master in the stone quarries, where he died a miserable death. Shadunada looks at the young man and says, "Work is the best friend I ever had. It was work that brought him money. It was work that brought him friends. It was work that saved him from despair." The young man realizes his mistake. He stops looking for the easy way out. He realizes that work is not a punishment. It is the golden key to opportunity.